Only about 10 miles behind us, upriver by Eli, Whitney, and Mulberry Grove. Designed to remove all the sticks and stones and seeds and clean that cotton before it got exported. Set all that industry built off the backs of those enslaved persons. If you guys are interested in learning more about that subject, the Owens Thomas House and Slave Quarters here in Savannah on Abercorn Street does a very nice presentation. Coming up on the Savannah River Queen, that is our smaller riverboat. We use that for private events, corporate charter, school groups. If you have any Netflix subscribers on, you might recognize it from recent popular Netflix series. We'll talk more about that later in the trip as we pass back by. We have this inbound container ship. You notice some of these tugs kind of assisting him. Those are known as ship assist tugs. You can get these ships on and off the docks as they're getting the lines situated, as well as helping them control their speed and assist them in making some of these very sharp turns in the river. All right, still off to our starboard side, just beyond this brick building, you notice a grassy area coming up with a group of trees in the middle. As we pass by, if you look directly between those trees towards the back of the Red Plaza, you're going to see a statue of a young lady waving her handkerchief stand next to a collie dog. The statue of Florence Martis, also known as our famous waving girl in Savannah. A little bit about Florence. She was born out on Cockspur Island out near the mouth of the Savannah River in 1868. Her father was stationed right there at Fort Pulaski. He was a U.S. general. Unfortunately for Florence, both of her parents passed away at a pretty early age, only about 18, forced to move further upriver with her brother George, who was a lighthouse keeper up on Elba Island. You can imagine a young girl growing up on a remote, deserted island with really nobody to keep her company other than her brother and her dog. She found herself very bored, found herself waving at all these ships as they would go by just to pass the time as the day went on. As these ships would go by, she'd go with a handkerchief during daylight hours to wave at them, or at nighttime she'd have a lantern. It's estimated that she waved at some 50,000 ships over a span of 44 years, never to miss a single ship that passed, even had her dog trained to wake her up at night as she was sleeping. Now, as these ships would go by, she'd run out and yell out to the crew, where are you coming from? What do you have on board? What is your name? She'd keep all this information in logbooks. Now, sailors being a bit of a superstitious bunch to begin with, sometimes these sailors are out to sea for months at a time, especially on a sailing ship. Very much adored Florence Martis. They saw her as a beacon of hope, a sign of good luck they'd made the journey safely. Show their appreciation, those sailors would give her gifts from time to time. One sailor dropped off a live llama from Peru as a gift, a pretty awesome gift to receive from somebody who quite know what they would do with that. Nevertheless, she's very much adored by the sailing community, and still to this day, largest funeral services ever held in Savannah was held for Florence Martis, attended mainly by these sailors. Sorry, you probably heard about Florence. She'd fall in love with a local sailor, and the sailor said, "Florence, sweetheart, my love, I'm going to go out to sea just one last time, make us a bunch of money. We'll come back, we'll buy some property, have a home, have a family, live happily ever after, of course, never to return." So Sid Florence waited over 4 decades, waving at some 50,000 ships in anticipation their long-lost love was on board, one which, of course, he never was. Now, later on in Florence's life, she was interviewed and asked some questions. One of the first questions asked, would you do all those logbooks, all the information on those ships? And she burned those at that point. The interviewer confused, why would you keep logbooks for 40 years just to destroy them? Well, Florence uses logbooks almost like a personal diary. She had a lot of personal and private information in those books. Really realized she'd become world famous out of sheer boredom at that point, just did not want all that personal and private information shared with the rest of the world. Of course, next question, what about this long lost love? Is that a true story or not? She said, definitely is a unique story. Unfortunately, it's not true. I just a lonely girl with nothing else to do but wave at these ships. Some people have argued maybe Florence was a little embarrassed she'd waited so long waving at all those ships, just waiting for one certain individual. I just like to do a bit of a survey on the top deck. I'm just curious, do we have anybody up here that would wait over 40 years, waving at 50,000 ships, waiting for your love who might be sitting or standing right next to you?
Hell no.
A liar up here in the blue t-shirt. Some lady just hit some dude in the arm, in the back part of the boat. Assuming that's her husband, he did not give the correct answer to that question. Sorry about that, sir. Anybody up front, 40 years, 50,000 ships, waiting for your love? Well, the guy, y'all got your back to me like, don't answer the question. Come on, fellas, now's your time to shine. Look at that beautiful woman next to you. Look her deep in the eyes. Say, sweetheart, I'd wait 100 years if I had you to see your beautiful face just one last time. Oh my goodness, I just love you so, so much. Our story of Florence Martis here in Savannah. After our starter bow, another new development, more condos going